Day 2 of the Siege of the Alamo, February 24th, 1836. The first day of the Alamo siege was chaotic because the Texians were surprised by the arrival of part of the Mexican army, and Santa Anna was surprised to arrive and find San Antonio was not attacked by his advanced guard. The second day of the Alamo siege was frenetic as both sides made war preparations. The purpose of a siege is to surround your enemy, to cut them off from supplies and reinforcements, to isolate them into surrender. To starve your enemy out, though, you need provisions to survive the siege yourself. To reach San Antonio from Mexico, Santa Anna subjected his troops to forced marches in winter weather on short supplies. So to remedy these shortages and prevent the Texians from doing the same, the Mexican army looted what they could from the homes of Bejareños: food, cattle, lumber, hay for horses, and maybe even some much-needed shoes. They took what they could get. At 9 in the morning on the second day of the siege, Santa Anna instructed his officers to hand out shoes to certain companies of men, probably cazadores or light infantry, whose feet mattered the most. Co-commander of the garrison, James Bowie, had been ill, perhaps with advanced tuberculosis. On the previous day, he was upright and functional enough to send a message to Santa Anna. Two of his surviving in-laws, Juana Navarro Alsbury and Gertrudis Navarro, prominent women from a prominent family, who had cared for him during the past few weeks of his illness, they entered the Alamo the day before. On the second day of the siege, Bowie's body just gave out, and he was carried by two of the men to his quarters located here, near the south gate. William Barret Travis, now the sole commander of the garrison, took his seat in the officers' quarters and put pen to paper again, as he had done the day before. What he committed to the page this time was what we call today simply the Travis letter. To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by 1,000 or more Mexicans under Santa Anna. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours and have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded a surrender at discretion, otherwise the garrison are to be put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, and everything dear to the American character to come to our aid with all dispatch. The enemy is receiving reinforcements daily and will no doubt increase to 3,000 or 4,000 in 4 or 5 days. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due to his own honor and that of his country. Victory or death. William Barret Travis, Lieutenant Colonel, commanding. P.S. The Lord is on our side. When the enemy appeared in sight, we had not 3 bushels of corn. We've since found in deserted houses 80 or 90 bushels and got into the walls 20 or 30 head of beeves. With few words, about 200 of them, Travis expressed the urgency and desperation of the situation at the Alamo. Albert Martin, the 30-year-old Rhode Islander who was sent to parley with Mexican officers the day before, was dispatched with the Travis letter. He rode out of the Alamo successfully and got the letter safely to Gonzales. He added his own postscript to the letter, suggesting the garrison were short on ammunition when he left. He handed the letter off to Lancelot Smither, who rode against the harsh winds of a norther to deliver the words, victory or death, to San Felipe 36 hours later. The Travis letter made quite a splash. 300 copies of a broadside were printed up and handed out. Newspapers reprinted it. Word spread pretty slowly in 1836, but Travis's letter spread far beyond the limits of Texas. Back in Gonzales, Albert Martin appealed to the citizenry to come with him to the Alamo. His own father implored him, begged him not to return to San Antonio where he would die, but Martin was committed to return with whatever force he could raise to help defend the place. In San Antonio, a permanent artillery battery was set up across the San Antonio River from the Alamo, aptly called the River Battery. It consisted of 2 8-pounders and 1 howitzer, firing from about 400 yards west of the Alamo. The Mexican artillerists focused their fire on the big 18-pounder cannon at the southwest corner, trying to dislodge it from its carriage. Colonel Juan Almonte reported that yes, the 18-pounder and 1 other artillery piece were successfully dismounted during the long bombardment. Although the Texians returned fire, no casualties were reported on either side. Thus ended the second day of the siege, February 24th, 1836. Santa Anna and his troops now had 2 permanent artillery batteries and some much-needed provisions. Bowie was on the bench, and William Barret Travis had written a letter into the pages of history. A huge thank you to Mr. James Boddie for permission to use his CGI renderings of the Alamo as it appeared in 1836. The primary reference used in this series is Colonel Alan Huffine's excellent book, The Blood of Noble Men. Links to it and other Alamo references are down below in the video description. Until day 3 of the siege, God in Texas, y'all.